Welcome to Ion Franchising, where you will learn the A to Z's of franchise. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Ion Franchising. I'm your host, Lance Graulich, and today, we got a woman here. This lady is phenomenal. Talk about women in franchising. She has been in franchising a long time. We're going to hear about that, and she's super young, too. So, the riches are in the niches. We've talked about that before. So the riches are in the niches, and she is cleaning up in the world of franchising. Welcome, my friend, Danessa Itaya. Welcome, Danessa.
Hi, welcome. Hey, it's nice to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. And Danessa, you are president of Bio1, and you are cleaning up because it is certainly a crime scene and trauma cleanup franchise, and it's exciting. Talk about a niche. So how the heck did you get into the world of franchising in the first place?
We talk about how long I've been in franchising, and one, it makes me feel old, and two, I'm going to have to start backing that number down and just saying 25 years plus. I don't want anybody to figure out how old I am.
You're going to knock it down. Yeah, I've been in franchise. I've been in the workplace 10 years now.
10 years. I think just like everybody else in franchising, or most people in franchising, it is, you fall into it by accident. I applied for an accounting assistant job when I worked for Maid, which was then just one single brand. And, I got into that and learned that there's actually a whole world here that I could learn, and the concept of helping put people into business is pretty awesome. I think a lot of times people say, well, Danessa, how come you don't own 10 franchises? And I tell them, hey, that's not why I do this. It's, for me, that's a different, it's a different motivator. It's a different why. For me, I love building up teams. I like building up brands and helping people get into business for themselves. And so it's what I've done. I've done everything from starting out and entering royalty reports into the system and getting really good at the 10 key to now being able to lead and guide brands and help them continue to grow and be able to reach that brand name awareness and dominate the local market. So
love it. So give us the highlights of your career from Maid, and just give us those little highlights there.
Absolutely. So I, like we talked about, it's been a bit, started out with Maid. Maid continued to grow, add additional brands, ended up with about 6-7 brands, became Service Brands International. I was there for about 19 years. So really just an amazing opportunity to be able to learn all different aspects, everything from operations to HR to the legal aspect of things, heading up our franchise compliance department. And then about 19 years into that, I got a phone call from a recruiter who said, hey, we would love to have you come and create a residential cleaning model based on the master franchise concept of JanPro, the janitorial model. And, the ability to kind of take all of your knowledge and start from scratch is kind of like a dream come true. I mean, how often do you get to be backed by someone else, use someone else's dollars to create a brand new brand, but bringing something different to the industry? So I did that for about 5 years. The brand was then sold. We actually awarded about 40 master franchise concepts. It was pretty exciting. It was fun being able to help put people into business who are more your cleaners, the people who come in and have, 5-10 grand to invest and want to grow a big business for themselves and their family. So,
and let's talk about that because, look, everybody thinks of McDonald's when they think of franchising. And, if you have a few bucks, there's a franchise out there for you. And like you said, people that were cleaning can get in with 5-10 grand. And then all of a sudden they could build their own little empire, right?
Right. Yeah. And when you're working with people like that, they are so passionate, they are so hardworking, and they're doing this to get their whole family involved. And so
Yeah.
being able to see these folks come in and, maybe they're cleaning at night, or maybe they're they start with one team, and over the span of a couple years, they're supervising, and they're continuing to build their business, and they're marketing their local their local markets. It's fun to see that.
The technicians that become the true entrepreneur.
Right. Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then from there, where'd you go?
So from there, we moved the family from Atlanta, Georgia to Salt Lake City. And so I started with a company called Property Management Inc. So a little bit stepping away a little bit from the cleaning, but amazingly that still follows. In property management, you're looking at everything from managing, short-term, long-term HOA management there. And really it was a neat opportunity to help them build, I think when I started, there's about 160 franchises. When I
Yep.
left, we were just knocking on the door of about 400.
Yep.
So building that, and it's interesting because home services and property management, it's recession resistant, right?
Yeah.
So with that, things like COVID and things like economy downturns don't impact those industries. So the ability to continue to grow through that and provide a business model for people that they're not reliant on how good is the economy.
Yeah. I just saw my friends from PMI, Property Management Inc. at our
Yeah.
FranServe conference in Florida, in Orlando. Another
Great.
great franchise. So then what? What happened after PMI?
Yeah. So then I decided to take some time off. I took about 5 months off, and I feel like that's an opportunity that everybody should have, is just to kind of do a reset.
The sabbatical.
Right. My parents teased me. They're like, "What are you doing? What, are you eating bonbons and watching, daytime TV now?" And I said, I'm doing checking off a couple things off my bucket list. I'm spending time with my kids that are getting ready to, I have a son who is getting ready to graduate from high school. And so being able to really just take that time and spend it with them was
Love
really
it.
fun. And then gosh, it's probably been about 6 months now. Then I joined a 5-star franchising with Bio One. And so it's been a great 6 months.
That's awesome. So tell us about Bio One. Did I describe it well enough?
Yeah.
Crime scene cleanup, trauma cleanup. People listening are like, what is Lance talking about? What is that? And who would do that?
It's interesting because that's naturally one. There are a couple things I've learned with this brand. As soon as you walk into the room and you tell people what you do, you are immediately, if you weren't already, the most important person in that room. Everybody wants to know. We all love true crime. They want to hear about what we see and what we've cleaned up. I think that's one aspect of it. We've all become true crime fans and love hearing about the unique stories and that component. But the interesting thing when you talk to our franchisees is the reason why they get into this business is for the people aspect of it. Nobody wakes up in the morning saying, "Hey, I'm going to go and clean up the stuff that nobody ever wants to clean up."
Yeah.
That's not what they're doing. But we find that majority of our franchisees, they're in it to help people, to be able to give back to the community, to be able to help people on the worst day of their life. That has been a really, really interesting component that I think sometimes gets overlooked, just because the sensationalism of, "Hey, what's going on? Hey, we saw your truck over there," or, "Hey, what do you know?" And we've helped in some of these big, the MGM.
And I'm in Las Vegas, the Harvest Festival.
Yes.
I know that the few franchisees in Las Vegas, plus some out-of-state franchisees, came in to help and support. It was a huge job.
Huge.
And it's terrible, but it's something that needs to get done. And the typical cleaning franchises, commercial, residential, are not
No.
typically doing any kind of crime scene cleanup. And you have the special suits and you have the special chemicals, or green chemicals, I should say.
Yeah.
So, describe that piece a little bit. You get paid
Yeah.
by insurance companies for the most
Right.
part.
Right. Absolutely. So when we look at our business model, we kind of divide it into three categories. Primarily is the bio work. So it's the crime scene trauma cleaning. It's we call them unattended deaths. Uh, you know, um, and so that's about a third of our business, and we love that work because we're working with insurance carriers. We're able to assure families that, hey, our goal is to get you back into your home as quickly as possible. I think when you look at our reviews, everybody promotes their reviews, and home services, your reviews can be all over the board, right? But for our industry, it's really interesting. I mean, majority of our reviews are 5-star, and it's not uncommon to see. I mean, I would say in most of them, you see a name referenced. Joe came out and helped us. Brian got us back into our home.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
and so you look at that, you recognize that it's very much a people business. So that's about a third of our business. Another third is hoarding cleaning. Again, when you're going into cleans like that, you do need people who are hazmat suit, who've got the right products. We know how to clean, we know how to disinfect, we know how to remove things from the home that need to be removed. And then the last third is what we call, it's a funny term because I feel like it's all gross filth, but we call it gross filth. And so that's things like rodent odor remediation, coming in after, maybe you had a bat infestation in your attic, and so you need that cleaned up. And so we'll come in and clean up things like that, rodent feces, things like that.
Got it. And I know from the past, because I've done a lot of business with Bio One through franchising in the past, and you're a newer president. I mean, you've joined in January of this year. Is that when it was?
January, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next leg of the expansion, so to speak, they bring in the heavy hitters, so to speak, the experienced, the experienced executive. So who is it? I know from the past, people that are incredibly empathetic, like first responders are great franchisees, and even hospitality folks. Like, I come from the restaurant industry. Anybody that's truly empathetic, that loves working with people, would be great for this franchise, correct?
That's exactly it. It's really interesting when we look at the demographic of who we've brought on. It is very much targeting first responders, anyone with any kind of law enforcement background. We have former military. They've seen a lot and they recognize the need. A lot of the when we go to shows, and we actually work closely with the FBI and local law enforcement. And one of the things we regularly hear is, hey, when I'm ready to retire, I'm calling you guys.
I love it.
They know that it's a need. They know that it's a good business model. But more than anything, they understand, this is as you talk to maybe victims' families, they say, hey, we didn't even know a company like this existed. And
Yeah.
so we're thankful that you guys could come in, and within a matter of hours, we're able to be back in our home and taking care of our family.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is a need. This isn't any kind of want. This is
Right.
something that has to get done. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, Grandpa Joe by
Mhm.
himself might pass, like you mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
unattended death. And thankfully, homeowners insurance is paying for these things
Right.
most of the time, So investment wise, what does it run these days? How big are the territories? Talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So investment, we're looking at, generally but between 100, 150,000, and being able to get kind of your, first, 3-6 months into the business there. We look at territory. It's unique, it's hard to pull data on how many suicides or hoarding cleans, things like that. And so with it, and we look at it and we base it on population, and we say, a population of 500,000 is what we're looking at for a service area there. We recognize that most of our work comes from referral partners. And so with that, we don't tie people to a specific territory, because we know that business is going to come from all over.
Got
When
it.
you work with victim advocate groups, or some of these nonprofits, local communities, we do a lot of tent city cleanups, things like that. That's not necessarily territory specific.
Gotcha. And when you mention the investment, that includes some sort of working capital, the franchise fee,
Correct.
probably lease payment on a truck, wrapping a vehicle, all that good stuff, right?
Correct. Correct.
Got it.
Yeah.
And most people these days, I'm sure, are still doing SBA loans or rollover business startup loans from their 401k, things like that, right?
That's absolutely what we're seeing. And we've got some folks that we work closely with that will work with our candidates as they're, determining 401k, SBA,
Yeah.
uh, those opportunities.
So talk about marketing a little bit. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
find the right individual, and we'll talk about the process in a second and how that works, but you find the right individual and they go into training. So let's talk about training first. What does that consist of?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody's cleaned up crime scenes for a living, I'm sure, prior to this.
Right, right. Well, and there's so many things to train, right? I mean, there's the physical aspect of it, as well as the marketing, and then the local requirements for training. So our training consists of a couple of different options. But predominantly we're based in Denver, and so they come to our office here, and they'll do a week-long training. But prior to that, from the time that they sign their franchise agreements, we take them through a 6-week onboarding course. So it's it's getting your things like bloodborne pathogen tests, things like those done before they come to what we call our BOTS training, our Bio One training system. And so they'll come to, once they've completed that, they'll come to Denver here and train out of our office, and we'll do 5 days of training. Then the other requirement we have is they also have to do some OSHA training as well. You can only imagine, the importance of having the right PPE and understanding cleaning products and the agents that we use, especially with some of these cleans that we're performing here. So
I was attempting to remember my acronyms. OSHA's Occupational Safety and Health Administration, I think, a government agency.
Right. And so it's not something that we get to determine. And so
Right.
we actually do bring in an OSHA trainer, and then they'll do that for 3 days. And then they're ready to go home and open their business. As they add additional components to the business, like drug remediation, obviously fentanyl is in
Yeah.
the news. And so with that, very highly skilled training is needed there for not only just use of cleaning agents, but also just how to handle it, and how to make sure your team is well protected, and managing any kind of remediation, whether it's meth or fentanyl. Huge education there. And then same thing with mold, water remediation. There are specific training programs that they can elect into. So
Love it. So let's talk about the process, and then we'll jump into marketing. So,
yeah,
when a franchise broker, consultant like myself refers somebody to you, or somebody just stumbles upon your website through creative Google searches, get me out of this job I hate, what should I be doing?
yeah,
Bio One.
yeah,
And they get into your process.
yeah.
I always tell people it's like dating. You go on a coffee date first, and then it gets more serious as you go, if you like each other. So
Right.
as you get into the process, they'll get a copy of your franchise disclosure document, and there's some sort of validation. So take us through the highlights of that process.
Absolutely. So one of the things, just like you talked about it, it's very much dating. This is for us, we also are very protective of our culture and who we bring in, and making sure that it's a good fit. It's a 10-year contract, and that's longer than some marriages these days. And so
Most marriages, yes.
right? Right. And so being able to make sure that we're partnering up and mutually evaluating each other. So they'll work very closely with one of our team members and just kind of taking them through the project process, educating them, reviewing the franchise disclosure document, introducing them to our team. We are part of 5-Star Franchising. And so in addition to meeting our Bio One team, they'll also have the opportunity to meet some of our 5-star leadership as well, because they're a key piece of who we are. We take them through that process. They join what we call owner calls, which are our validation calls, and they can join as many of those. We have them regularly scheduled on one day a week. And they have the opportunity to ask questions, ask the franchisees. I tell people all the time, you don't want, I've got a presentation. I'm happy to talk to you, but really what you want to know is you want to hear it from the franchisee. You want to hear what they're doing. You want to hear their pain points. I can give you numbers all day long if you want, but you don't want them from me. You want them from the franchisee.
Yes.
That's who's really going to be able to give you some good detail there. So they go through that process. We have what we call a meet the team day. So like a discovery day. And so the beauty of, I think one of the things that came out of COVID is our ability to do more of that virtually. And we've kind of stuck with that. We like doing meet the team days virtually. It gives everybody a little bit more flexibility. They're not having to take a couple days out of their life to fly to Denver and spend time with us. But that meet the team day is so critical, because that's where we are doing a lot of mutual evaluation. They've learned about our model at that point in time. They understand a little bit about what we're about and how this model is driven. But then they're evaluating, hey, is this a team that I see myself being able to work with? And we look at that and we say, hey, is this a candidate for us that fits in with our culture and with our our core values? And so it's been fun to be able to have those conversations. And we tell people all the time, this business is not for everyone.
Yeah.
We do things that most people don't even dream of doing. And so making sure that our core values are aligned there is important.
Love it. So let's talk about the marketing aspect. So people get out of training, and how do you really launch? I mean, the obvious, I'm sure, like I always love to talk about local store marketing or local marketing, getting it out to your community and giving every religious organization, hospital, in your case, your business card, I would imagine. What else?
Yeah. For us, because majority of our repeat revenue, you think in this business, how do you have recurring revenue? But it's coming from referral partners. And so with that heavy, I think like everybody else, people say, well, gosh, does digital marketing really apply to a brand like yours? Absolutely, it does. It absolutely is important, not only to feed the Google beast. We've got to make sure that there's plenty of content, that they understand what we do, that we're a 24/7 service here, but the ability to be able to find out what are people saying about us, and depending on what their need is, being able to have that conversation and get that information. But for us, it's also heavy local boots on the ground marketing. We tell our franchisees that networking piece is critical. And so teaching them here's who, before you leave training with us, you're going to have a list of 20 businesses, whether they're residential cleaning businesses, that you're going to go and say, hey, who do you refer your hoarding cleans to? Because residential cleaning in Molly Maid, we referred those all day long.
Yeah.
Our ladies were not prepared to clean things like that. They're not suited up to be able to do that. So being able to identify and develop those relationships, whether it's police departments, victim advocate groups, hospitals, property managers, all of those, and then setting them up on a regular schedule of going back and spending some time with them, and participating in the, coffee with cops and
I was going to
pastry.
say, drop them some donuts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we bring the canine units a treat. And so being able to really make sure that you're tied to your community is a big piece. And that's the difference we see in our franchisees who are successful, who are doing the things and growing consistently, is they've built a solid network.
Love it. So now, if I was going to ask you, I mean, you have 100 and something. How many franchisees these days?
Got 132 franchisees.
So if I was going to ask you about the top 10 best making a lot of money franchisees that are happier than heck, what do they really have in common?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we get this asked
Thank you.
all the time. A couple things. One is that they follow the model. They are following the model. They're when we roll out new programs, they adopt those programs. When we roll out new software, they adopt the software, because they recognize it's going to help them be more efficient. It's going to help them add capacity and scale their businesses. Number two is they are consistently marketing. Marketing is such a key role. And, I've got a franchisee who's one of our $1 million businesses. And he says, listen, he goes, I don't ever want to get out of the suit because I can sell while I'm in the suit. I'm working with that customer. I'm able to have those discussions with them, and to be able to, I'm just always selling while I'm out on the job. And so again, that component of, you're always selling, whether you're at networking groups, or in your community or at your son's baseball game, whatever it is, you're always representing the brand. And then the third component is they're actively engaged with the franchise network. It's hard when you get people who join a network, but they don't take advantage of reaching out to their neighbor and sharing best practices, or attending annual conferences, or engaging in our town hall meetings and things like that, where
Yes.
that's why you join. That's one of the benefits of joining a franchise, is you get this great knowledge base of people who live, breathe, and eat this every day. And so you don't have to make those mistakes that they made. So I find that when they're engaged, if I said, what are the top 3 things that my successful franchisees do? Hands down.
Yeah, I love that you just said that continuing education piece, the best practices, the collaboration
Yeah.
amongst franchisees. There's a lot of people that ask me on a regular basis, Lance, I'm not sure if a franchise is right for me. I might start my own thing. And I always tell people, this is America. You can start your own thing. You're going to be all by yourself on an island wearing all of the hats, or you can join a franchise and a franchise system that has everything covered. And if you want extra help, you always have people to rely on. And if it's not corporate, so to speak, the franchisor, you have your fellow franchisees to reach out to, which is magic in this situation. You're reaching out to people that are worth a lot of money, that have made their families a lot of money and already built their empire. And you're essentially asking them for a hand up. Like, I'm sure a previous franchisee gave them a hand up and said, hey, do this, tweak this, right?
Yeah. And we hear that consistently from our franchisees is, as they continue to grow their business, they talk about the franchisee who helped them on day 1 and day 10 and day 1,000, that they've built these amazing relationships with them. So absolutely.
So what's on the horizon?
Yeah.
How many locations? What's the goal?
So it's interesting. I came from a company like PMI where, it was 100 a year, we were adding like crazy. Bio One, a little bit slower growth, where territories are a little bit different. But with that, also being strategic in how we're growing these and adding to these areas. For us, our goal is to add 30 this year. We feel like that's sustainable, it's scalable. We are also rolling out technology. I mean, this is cleaning business is low tech, I mean,
But I'm glad you said that, because you mentioned that earlier, and I was like, I wanted you to share with the audience, what is that technology? And again, another thing you're not going to get when you're an independent business owner trying to figure this out on your own.
right, exactly. So we're rolling out a new CRM. With that, a we're 130 businesses, but that's still small, right? And in comparison to some that have, thousands of locations, for us, we're 130, but we're big. We're also big. And so with that, being able to pull that data, we've got lots of data out there that just is, it's coming in through all sorts of different vehicles. And so what we're trying to do is systematize that, be able to start generating reports back to the franchise network saying, hey, here are your benchmarks. Here's what you compare. Here's what our top 25%, this is what they're doing. Call them, talk to them, learn from them. So being able to bring in and implement a CRM is a big piece. Being able to also provide that data back to them and help them understand what's normal. Am I normal? Am I falling behind, or am I a superstar here? And how do I continue to get to the next level? Who do I need to talk to? So as we look at, the ability to scale businesses, I've talked to franchisees who, use everything from Post-it notes and index cards to run their business to, using some software. So we knew that there was some opportunity there to continue to grow. Our websites, our digital presence, how do you leverage AI in a business that's about cleaning up crime scenes, but lots of opportunity to do that. Everything from content creation to being able to respond to customers and respond to reviews and things like that. So,
Danessa, this has been awesome. Final thoughts for today, final words of wisdom for the listeners.
Yeah. From my standpoint, I think when you look at franchising, probably the biggest component of it is just the relationships that you build, whether it's with fellow franchisees, whether it's friendships with others in the industry. I think it is probably one of the biggest strengths of franchising is the ability for me to talk to other home service franchisors and pick their brain, what worked, and so with that, you get the ability to leverage not just your own local network, but I get to leverage 5 Stars knowledge, and I get to read, all of the franchising world's knowledge. And so being able to bring all of that, it allows us to do some really amazing things, which we're loving. It's a lot of work, but we get a lot of gratification in seeing our franchisees grow.
I love it. Well, Danessa Itaya, BioOne's president, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Lance, for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for listening today. Please like, follow, and subscribe. This is Lance Graulich. Until next time.